All right, in this episode, we talk about does the piriformis muscle support pitching
and the lead leg flying open.
All right, Brent Porcio, Stephen Godani here at the @TopVelocity #Pitchy Tips show, where you go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat @TopVelocity #Pitchy Tips. Ask your question, we answer on the show. If you haven't already, get ready for the 3X, 2X camps coming up this spring and summer. I've got camp also in Long Beach, California on March 26th, still open. It's definitely a go. If you'd like to sign up for that, please sign up for that ASAP at TopVelocity.net, Velocity Camps, under 3X Velocity Camps. Okay, nothing big's going on. Everybody's working on the season. If you have any questions to put on the show, like I said, throw them on the show, and we're just going to get started right now. What's the first question for the day?
John Fitzpatrick asks, I have a tight piriformis. Is this used during pitching? Any stretches I can do for more mobility?
All right, so piriformis is an external rotator. It's just under the glute. It's a pretty small muscle, but supports external rotation with two other muscles. How is important external rotation in the leg important for pitching? It's going to support torsion, which we know torsion as we move down the mound and load the leg. We can keep the knee in torsion, it stabilizes the knee when the knee is externally rotated. Okay, so it's a twisting of external rotation, not like turning of the foot. It's typically a twisting in the knee of external rotation that stabilizes the knee. We call that torsion. So that's going to support a load and support a stabilized leg. So it's not going to really be used in acceleration. So, internal rotation, extension of the leg is more of an accelerator. So piriformis could actually affect that. If it was tight, it would prevent a lot of internal rotation. So it is important. So I would say you start off with mashing it first. And you're going to probably have to work pretty deep because you're working through the glutes. So a lot of mashing, getting even as focal as you can with a lacrosse ball, be pretty intense, and just try to get the muscle density out of it. That should help a lot. On top of that, there is a lot of external rotation stretches you can do, but deep squatting is probably the best thing you can do for external rotation. So we do add some good external rotation stretches in, but we're more pushing the deep squatting. So it's a muscle there. I wouldn't want to get too crazy about it. I don't truly know how important it is to, externally rotating and loading and everything we do with it, just because there's many other muscles that support that. So it's not one that really pops out of my head as a big deal. Not like the adductors or the calf or the glute itself. Some of those are a little bit more important to me. A lot of studies show those more as really high activators in the pitching delivery, and piriformis is not really one I've seen as considered a high activator. But yes, if you have poor internal rotation, which studies link external internal rotation, arc of rotation to ball velocity, then it could start to have an effect on performance. So something where you really would mashing and just keeping the muscle density out and keeping it functional and allow it help support good range of motion. That would be important. So hopefully that answers your question. Anything you have?
Like Brent was saying, how external rotation is big for helping load the leg and pitching and moving down the mound and stuff. Also, my main concern too is if you're training and that's keeping you from getting good external rotation, is that's going to really affect your squat technique, not being able to go all the way to the bottom of your squat and be comfortable in the bottom of your squat. So I don't know if you're lifting or whatnot, but if you're really having a problem with external rotation, you're probably not squatting heavy and deep. But like Brent's saying, that's a big way to help get external rotation, probably help loosen that up, along with the smashing techniques with like a softball or a lacrosse ball, really digging in there and spending some time breaking up the tissue. And then doing the mobility external rotation work will probably help break it all up too, but make sure you clear it up.
And the reason we squat deep is because we can build strength and power which it builds a more dynamic lower half. So that's the purpose there, right? All right, next question.
Thomas asks, I'm working with some students who tend to cross over the midline. Is that more of a motor skill problem or back leg weakness?
Okay, so assuming talking about midline, you're talking about the stride line. Typically the stride line is measured from the middle of the drive foot to your target. High velocity pitchers land 19 centimeters closed in placement and 19 centimeters closed in position, or 19 degrees closed in position. So why would a guy be landing open? It's typically because they're not loading into the back leg long enough or deep enough. You know, all the things that put the back leg in that linear loaded position to maximize back leg energy, back leg drive. So someone who's quickly out of the back leg or rotating out of the back leg, flying open, is going to be a guy who's going to fly across that stride line. So yes, I think even if someone has the leg strength and the mobility to get into those load positions, it's a motor coordination issue, and it's just giving them drills to teach them to load deeper and longer and peak forces later out of the back leg drives. That keeps you closed. I mean, as long as your focus is closed while you're doing that. But if you lack mobility and you lack speed, strength, power, or strength and power in that back leg, that could make you go early. Because, you know, to get into a linear back leg position, you have to have about 40 degrees of internal rotation, and you have to have some good knee, ankle, hip flexion to be able to get into that position. So if I don't have that, I'm trying to get there, I get stuck, and then everything wants to go early. So it's like I'm not all the way down to my load, and I got to open because I'm out of range, and everything flies open early. So first you measure mobility, and you see, does he have 35 to 40 degrees of internal rotation? Does he have good dorsiflexion, 15 to 20 degrees of dorsiflexion? Is he able to use that and counter rotate into the hips? And if he can do all that, then can he peak forces into front foot? If not, he could be pulling to overcompensate for that. So if you see the mobility and you see a good power to weight ratio, and you see that he's actually able to, well, at that point, he's doing it. But if you see he has the mobility and the power to weight ratio, then it's something you probably just teach for him to load better and longer and peak forces later, and it should work. But if not, it's more likely just linked to the physical issues that he has, that he's not allowed to do that.
Like Brent was saying, it tends to be like someone who, if he's not loading long enough, or if he starts peaking too soon, which I would say it would probably more be the case if he's not like throwing pretty high velocities. Studies show that low velocity pitchers tend to peak their drive leg forces too soon, and then that actually decreases velocity, not peaking it right into the ground, which would also, like Brent's saying, you peak velocity soon, you start hip rotation, everything flies open, and they're landing all crazy. So that's something that with timing, mobility, all of that stuff. But I was just going to add, I think that's where Olympic lifting, I think, has such a huge benefit, not only with the power to weight ratio, but also teaching your body timing, when to peak the lower half to get the bar to go. As you start getting better at Olympic lifting and really start being able to move heavy weights, it literally starts teaching your body motor control and teaching it how to time its movements, and that can really start to help with timing the movement down the mound and peaking your energy at the last second, and really start giving you some confidence in those areas as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. You start to learn, when you start to get more advanced at Olympic lifting, you start to learn not just the power and the strength you're developing, but the motor control that you have. Like your movements are more efficient. You use the kinetic chain more efficiently. You move energy up the kinetic chain better. You don't waste energy. You don't overcompensate. And a lot of what you're talking about, flying open, is the guy whose lower half is just not efficient. It's not effective and it's not efficient. So it's really, once you fix the lower half, you don't have that flying open. That means the lower half is optimized, and typically things stay closed, and the lower half starts driving everything at that point. But that brings up a good point, and I hope that helps. If you have any questions, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, at TopVelocity, #PitchTips, ask your question. We answer on the show. See you down here this summer, or spring, at the 3X, 2X camps. It's going to be an awesome summer. See you on the next episode.